Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
This is about buildings and cities.
I'm Luke Jones.
I'm George Kinchell.
We are continuing Plečnik in the city. So we're looking at a picture of the Flatiron building, which I think is called...
Not the one in New York.
But the better one in Slovenia.
I don't know.
I mean,
New York looks quite cool.
No, the New York one's pretty good as well. I think it's called Peglesen or something like that. It's got a...
Isn't it the same? I mean, but it's the same family. You can also call it the professor's house.
Prolovchek. Possibly, yeah. Is this the professor's house? Yeah.
It was built for them, but they never inhabited it.
So this is at the end of the last program. We talked about Plečnik's unrealised visions for the civic centre of Ljubljana. This kind of whole big monumental square, town hall, city planning department, kind of other associated like civic stuff, sort of civic quarter. Yeah, it's very interesting, complex, has these amazing elevations. And this is from the same period, and essentially it's a kind of sole... It's not actually part of that complex, but it's adjacent to it, and it's kind of built in the spirit of it. I think it functions a little bit as a kind of built sample of maybe what this complex might have been like. If this had been built,
it would have been a funny little adjunct to it that some people would go and visit, but most people wouldn't.
Yeah.
But this, which is an incredible sort of complex of very civic buildings, playing with different ideas of public space and historicism and, I guess, grandeur.
Yeah.
That house is meant to be a kind of nod. It's sort of a little reflection, much smaller scale, very public though.
Yeah.
This is the kind of main road that goes round on the castle side.
Yeah.
I think divides at that point. So
Yep.
it kind of goes around. It's beginning to slightly not be in the absolute centre anymore.
Yeah.
But as you look down, you see the very, very skinny end of this building.
Yeah. And it shares perhaps like a little bit of this... If you look at the elevations, they've got a bit of this sort of collage feeling that the Civic Centre proposals do. There is a whole series of... The whole kind of interesting and kind of interestingly kind of discordant arrangement of different kind of type elements. There is a kind of like very classic, very straight sort of neoclassical window with a little semicircular sort of pediment over the top of it. And there is a bit of...
Just swags.
Very kind of Wagnerian swags, low relief swags. And then there's a bit which is like a kind of winter garden, high level winter garden, kind of greenhouse under columned portico thing floating in the sky. And
also feels a little Balkan.
Yeah. And then there's a bit at the bottom with kind of feels like big sort of half circle Roman arches or something. The arrangement is collage-y.
But looking at that drawing, there's a drawing of the three elevations.
Yeah.
It almost looks like a fantasy building. Doesn't it look like a caprice?
Yeah, because it's kind of piled up and up and up and up and up, and it has that.
You can see how this guy's like a real architect's architect, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it looks like a little. It looks like one of those sort of elevational fantasy drawings that Gandhi does, or something like that. You know, like his one of all the styles of architecture on top of each other. That kind of that's a little bit of the effect.
And then there's one which is the end elevation, and you see that the building is ridiculously thin.
Yeah, it's amazing.
The ratio of long elevation to narrow elevation is absurd.
Yeah, so I think this was built at the start of the 1930s. I think that's when it happened, kind of early to mid 1930s.
It's kind of a funny thing to be building at that time as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, the 30s is definitely modernism or very historicist in modern inflected historicism. Unless, I guess, I mean, there are other people. Yeah, I mean, I guess we talked about Rossini as a comparator last time.
Yes, there's stuff going on in Italy.
But the mainstream of Italy is more modern.
Yeah, it's tend to be, even those buildings in the middle of Milan or Bergamo or whatever, they tend to be like quite an abstracted image of classicism. Yeah, or
I mean, this is somewhat abstracted.
It is somewhat. But it feels like the abstraction is different. Like it's not a geometric like simplification. It almost feels...
On the contrary.
No, it feels like something which is, like I said, kind of collage-y, pattern booky. It feels like a kind of Hawksmoor type elevation, like lots and lots of things taken from different books and kind of combined in a very novel, original way.
Yes, it feels sort of postmodern. I would be amazed if this wasn't featuring as a poster in some sort of period publication in the 80s.
I bet.
Or kind of like something that is engaging with form.
Yeah.
Like type, form, sampling. Very curious building. You would have to have a very sympathetic client for building this because it's...
Yes. Is it, strictly speaking, usable? I suppose just about, but
yeah, I mean...
we haven't really got onto the plan.
there's those sort of Eisenman houses where...
Yeah, the idea is you're not actually going to live there.
Yeah,
like,
they don't. But
you'd be mad to try and sleep there. Yeah.
I don't think any of them are quite as wacky as this, actually,
Yeah.
or quite as. I mean, the other idea with them is that they all are kind of engaging with formal, kind of geometric formal play. I mean, this is in a completely different axis of analysis, but it weirdly did remind me of that sort of approach. This makes a better poster.
For sure.
Although those ones make pretty good posters too.
Well, we should say something about... So there are these two quite extraordinary spaces on the interior. One, obviously, is the inside of this very odd, kind of glazed belvedere on the extreme door wedge corner. And the other is the staircase, which is almost indescribable in plan. It looks like, they're situated in a rectangular box, but they're on the diagonal.
Like you would expect. The shape of the staircase plan is what you'd expect, except there's a big change.
Yeah, which is the stairs themselves are kind of on the diagonal. They're all kind of skewed.
So if you get a normal rectangular stair plan and there's a line down the middle of it, right, which could be a hole to go down the middle, rotate that by 10 degrees.
Yeah.
And then all the treads, sort of rotate them.
They're not really perpendicular.
Fanning out.
Yeah.
And then also, I'm not sure that the kind of meeting point of the stair is actually centered either.
No, it doesn't look like it. It's very, very odd. I mean, there are photographs of it which don't do justice to what's drawn in the plan. So I think this is one that I haven't been in, and I think it's one that you would really have to visit to even begin to really understand. It looks like something which if a student did in their project, I would tell them not to. That looks ridiculous. But I'm tempted to give him the benefit of the doubt based on other factors.
Learn to play the guitar well before you learn to play it badly.
Yeah.
He definitely had a lot of creative latitude on this one, didn't he?
I don't know what's going on. So there's a refurb of one of the flats, which is sort of knocking around in architectural publication world. It still doesn't really give that much away about what it's really like.
Yeah, unfortunately, when we went as students, as part of my MA, I wasn't doing this building. I was doing in a group doing a different series of ones, so I
missed out.
Couldn't really comment. They did all go round. I suppose I could have tried to get someone's pictures. But.
Looks quite something.
So that end elevation also. Do we have the kind of orange wash drawing that he did of it?
No, I don't think so.
Might be good to put that in.
We could put that in,
because it kind of it's very De Chirico.
Yeah.
Esque.
Yeah, it looks like a funny Aldo Rossi drawing, maybe. Like it's sort of this funny little lighthouse.
So there's a slight difference in the gradient.
Yeah.
One side goes a bit down and one side goes a bit up. But it's sort of represented as if it's this kind of turning point of a stair.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's great. He got to do this.
Yeah. Managed to fit it in between other major projects at the same time. We've kind of talked about the middle of town, and now we're talking about things on the edges of, as it were, the kind of inner ring road. Yeah, the Flatiron Building is one of them. Another is this funny little bridge which forms part of the route down to his house, which I think I've just got one picture of. They're the tallest and pointiest of the tall, pointy pyramids that he's...
Yeah, so there's a little tributary of the river. It almost, sort of psychologically, at least when I was there, I felt it sort of separated his suburb from the city. I mean, actually, I think you'd probably start the city a bit further up. It's really quite close to his house, but there's a kind of run of a few other detached houses, and then a church, which has got a sort of pointiness, and a little bit of a public space, and this bridge, which has got very, very tall, thin pyramids on it.
Yeah.
and some bollards. And I think he also added some trees and things. And I think it's kind of animating these tall, thin things. They make the void of the rivers and the kind of public space around.
Yeah.
They create an interesting sort of middle ground to it. I also think there's some relationship between the pointiness of the pyramid and the church, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. I think obviously also the trees have grown in a lot since. I think that this when it was built would have been much more exposed. And it's now, quite kind of enclosed and quite sheltered by these big mature trees.
The kind of parapet of the bridge has got funny urny things on them as well. Yeah. There's a lot of
There's always scope for an urn, There's always room for another urn. Where do these come from, all of these funny tall pyramids? The thing which I've seen is there's a description of the tomb of Lars Porsena, the Etruscan king.
That is the right person, yes, as in off of the Lays of Ancient Rome.
But that's meant
I think there are lots of other more like... Well, firstly, it's an obvious shape.
But it is also one which is a little bit...
But it's not useful for anything. It's a kind of...
It's definitely a kind of deep time motif. Yeah, it has a certain sort of mysterious presence. I mean, we're about to see a bunch of other pyramids that he...
Yeah, the other ones, you can see what they're referencing very clearly.
Yeah.
That's not super difficult. Or is it sort of obelisky? It's not really like that, is it?
Yeah.
And it's funny that it's got a little bobble on top. Can it just be like deep timey? Can it be truthy?
Yeah, I think it can be kind of
historical truthy.
I think it's a vibe. I think it's in danger of being a vibe. But they are
atmospherics.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not immediately adjacent, but kind of a similar distance from the centre, there is the remains of the Roman wall.
And if you wanted a metaphor for one of the things that Plečnik's doing with the city, I think this project kind of works as it, which is he was given the project to restore a part of the Roman wall. And by restore, what he did was sort of insert a series of new ancient features.
Yeah, new ancient, kind of narrative moments.
Yeah, which is an interesting definition of restore.
Yeah, but which turn it from being something kind of overlooked and into moment of real kind of intensity and interest. So, like, one of the things is building this big pyramid with a tunnel through the middle.
Yeah.
Which sort of becomes a new gatehouse in the wall. Yeah, I mean, on one side of the wall, there's a lot of university buildings, and then there's more sort of suburban kind of streets on the other side. Becomes this very enjoyable little gateway through.
And there were two more. But they were just made of earth, big piles of earth pyramids.
Yeah, so I can't quite understand where exactly how all this was oriented. But yeah, he also just made a couple of extra pyramids. Originally, the stone pyramid in the wall was covered in turf, like the tumulus that he built in his cemetery. They were again covered in soil and grass.
Yeah, make them more ancient.
Yeah,
interesting, isn't it? Interesting brief or interpretation of a brief. Again, it must have been given pretty broad latitude because what I would like you to do...
What we need is a pyramid.
And he also builds what's called a lapidarium by him, which I think is often somewhere where you keep stones.
Yeah.
But for here, it's a sort of imagined Roman ruin, and it might have some Roman stones in it, but quite a lot of the historic stones in it are made for him. And it's clearly meant to be sort of a Roman ruin or encapsulate the idea of Roman ruin. And I think there probably are some old stones there, but some of the stones I think are not.
Yeah, some of the old stones are in his house as well. A lot of them found their way into his little winter garden. The floor in the winter garden is a kind of patchwork of different stones.
So it all seems like enhancing, magnifying the atmosphere of Ljubljana as an ancient great city.
Yeah,
which he does throughout. I mean, part of the effect of his historicism or his appeal to the past is to give the place, which, I mean, Ljubljana does have a long history. It was a Roman settlement and more or less occupied continuously since then, but it magnifies that history.
Yeah.
It gives it a medieval and Baroque and Roman past at each level kind of greater.
Yeah, and it makes it something which you can kind of continuously experience in everyday life.
I'm kind of for synthetic history, actually.
I like it as well, yeah.
It adds a note of wonder to the city, which is one of the things that cities can offer, but it's very difficult to grade. It's not sort of conventionally part of city plans, how to introduce wonder.
Yeah, I think that, people are a bit prudish about, faking stuff, I think that the kind of conventional historical view is trying to stick to the facts. Yeah,
it's sort of
it's a
faking.
true story. It's a true story. It's like it's inspired by real events.
It's inspired by real events, and it's got bits of real events stuck in it.
Yeah,
it is in the real Roman wall with real Roman stones.
It's manifesting real events as part of the background of everyday life, part of the background of like actual kind of everyday spatial experience as you walk around the city, which is, lots and lots of things. I think that we have a kind of, a sort of expectation that you just sort of do that by sticking a statue here and there, but I think it's a bit lame. I think it's much better to do it in a way that's immersive.
I mean, I don't think this is the only approach. And one of the effects of the Plečnik technique, certainly around this, but I find it generally, is that it does fill the town with ghosts. Sometimes with Carlo Scarpa's approach to history, I felt that he was kind of revivifying things a bit. And he's very engaged with death as well. But I feel that the Plečnik ghosts are even more... There's also something that feels quite postmodern, doesn't it? Filling everything with ghosts. But these are much more convincingly... The postmodern ghosts seem like they aren't conjured out of real bodies. Yeah. It's not real necromancy.
No.
There wasn't really a body there to start with. Whereas these feel like much more like bringing to life the dead. And it's very easy to live with ghosts, but it does... Yeah.
Okay, well, onward to a major work. So, the National Library, or National and University Library, which was underway from 1930 and for a decade. It's like quite central. It's on the sort of Congress Square side of the river, and it's kind of a little bit to the south, sort of on the way to his house from the Congress Square. Yeah, I mean, it is a big custom designed, custom built national library and university library for the new nation, and it's a major piece of work and quite a thing. And I think there's quite a lot to talk about with it.
Yeah, from the outside, it's a large, imposing block building.
Yeah,
of I don't know how many stories, but 8, something like that.
Yeah, about
slightly bigger than everything around it.
Yeah,
and that was definitely true at the time. And from a distance, it's bricky and stony.
It's not quite a whole block. Like, there is a building on one side, but it's got kind of 3 street elevations, and it's got Courtyard in the middle to admit light. So it's sort of filling out a kind of proper big urban block. And it is. The facade is really interesting. The plan is quite interesting, and it's got some very important interior spaces. And as a whole, there's a sort of development of ideas about the facade and about the materiality that we've seen in some previously discussed buildings. And should we talk a bit about the facade, maybe?
Yeah, I'd talk about the mass of the building first, because it has, as you said, a number of different spaces inside and outside this building, and they're quite different to each other.
Yeah.
So the outside of the building, it does some things that are quite subversive, but at the first level of the massing, it feels very conventional. Except possibly it's a bit too much like a block. It's a bit too much like an extrusion of the plan.
Yeah.
It's squashed squarish, and the walls just go up and cut off.
Yeah.
Quite crisp. The walls have lots of windows, more or less in a grid. The windows themselves, if I remember rightly, are sort of slightly poking out bay.
Yeah,
at least on one
upper
side.
ones are, yeah.
And the wall is a funny patchwork of, unevenly, of probably 60% brick, and then some flat dressed stone and some rusticated stone, peppered in seemingly like a sort of noise pattern.
Yeah.
Being denser in some bits and less dense in others. Feels kind of like a computer era type thing to do.
Yeah. It looks like a sort of scatterbrush or something. It's I mean, it immediately starts to break up the kind of blockiness, because you've got some of these blocks which really protrude, where you get lots of shadowing, get sort of sun cast in different ways. There are lots of things which sort of disrupt the what would otherwise be the flatness of the grid. You've got these protruding bays on the upper stories, and you've got these quite sort of stark sills and lintels on the windows as well.
large parts of the facade are devoid of classical ornamentation.
Yeah.
But there is still
There's some, isn't
a
there?
decent amount overall. There's a whacking great band of
There's a mega cornice on the top,
dentation,
which
and
looks
wiggles.
much too big.
Well, it looks, but also because every other bit of this classical facade that it would sort of go on has been deleted.
Yeah, yeah,
And it feels like deleted because it gets deleted to sort of flat surface,
yeah.
to kind of primal form.
So I guess one reading of the poetics of the facade is this is found materials, kind of rustic.
Spolier, but
Yeah.
but it obviously also isn't.
Yeah, no, it's a very, very dramatization of that idea or something. Really beautiful, really cool, really funny. Everyone has had a really strong reaction to this when we went to see it. It's just such a funny idea. It's such a kind of bold sort of.
By this point in his career, he's become really genuinely quite transgressive.
Yeah.
But in an extraordinarily buttoned down way.
Yeah, yeah, he can really push the boat out. And the material, I guess it just makes you look really carefully at the materials. Like the stone does have this sort of lovely kind of weathered beauty, and the brick has this warmth and kind of crispness.
So on one side, there's a big glazed chunk of the facade, top to bottom, which is actually set in a bit. Here, it's easier to describe it with a picture, which has got the lower band of the building is all stone, and there's a sort of balustrade, and there's this glazed bit which has got a big heavy grid to make up the windows.
It's like a complete cutout in the mass of the kind of masonry building.
And one of Plečnik's columns in a giant order. Are the sides of it straight, tapering to the top?
They are straight. It is straight, I think.
And, well, I'm not sure if that elevation that you've shown there actually ever got quite built exactly.
I think it's straight.
Is
I
it
think
straight?
It's
Or,
yeah.
I have to compete with my kind of memories of these things, which are very old.
Yeah.
But I remember it being fluted and going to a sort of so it's got sculpted shape, but quite abstract and sharp.
Yeah. So you've got this
quite memorable.
There's one rogue mega column holding up and characteristically put in the middle of the opening. Just one in the middle. This maneuver that he loves so much. And behind that is the reading room, which is a sort of full height mega space. Yeah, I mean, we're looking at the plan. So the plan is basically a perimeter block, and then there's an inner corridor looking into the courtyard. And on the upper stories, that's what there is. There's these kind of three sides with a corridor and offices offices and other spaces off the corridor, and then the reading room is the kind of fourth side going all the way up,
which is the side that's got more block against it on the back.
And then the lower levels, there is this kind of centre bit crossing across the middle of the courtyard, which is the big monumental staircase and kind of upper hall.
And that staircase lobby is perhaps 2/3 of the size of the reading room of the library. It's a big,
really big,
impressive space, which you kind of go in almost immediately into.
Yeah.
When you go through the door, and the entrance, it's got the famous door handle.
Yes,
which
with a lovely
is
horse.
Pictures of him fondling.
Yeah.
And then you go in, and you're in a different sort of building, somewhat.
Yeah.
And it is we really have got into the Pharaoh's temple now.
Yeah, it's in this lovely, very dark, again, limestone, this dark grey limestone.
I love this stair. This stair is so not parquet.
You kind of come into the lobby, and then there's another stair going up, and you're kind of ascending up from the floor, surrounded by these lovely dark reflective walls, and kind of gradually ascending then into this hall, which is full of columns. It's full of a grid of big grey columns. And then the void of the staircase is kind of balustraded off with these big kind of altar tables, all also made of stone, each of which is supported by two sort of fluted Doric columns on either end, and it has a funny little kind of very owlish Ionic column in the middle. But they're like dwarf columns. They're like the top bit of a column.
We've gone from this kind of nice, civic, quite modern-y exterior, definitely 20th century. And now we're going up. There is a stair. It has nothing. No handrails, anything. It's basically a cut into slot. Everything is polished black stone. So you're just in a slot of polished black stone with a polished black staircase.
Yeah.
You go up that polished black staircase and you're in a kind of pillared hall of black polished columns with kind of altars everywhere, and the ceiling looks again like beams,
Yeah, dark
trabeated.
Dark wood, flat ceiling running.
Stone beams, black stone beams. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously this isn't the real construction. It doesn't matter. Tintin has gone into the temple.
Yeah, this is very much
such a different...
Yeah, you could have 15 different sacrifices going on at the same time all the way. Yeah, it's an extraordinary space and it's an extraordinary mood.
And then when you get up to the top, there's an incredible doorway into the
sort of gallery space on the back. Yeah, there's a doorway at either end. At the kind of above the foot of the stair, there's an opening into a kind of gallery space, and at the head of the stair, you can go straight on into the reading room. I think I've got some pics of that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Needless to say, various other interior details, fancy lampstands and stuff.
All but I mean, it's a total work of design, and it's there is a curtain wall actually around on two sides of it. That's where the light comes in, which is a sort of deep curtain wall. Yeah, like a double casement glazing. The actual room also has a kind of row of columns around the edge, so it's a kind of curtain walled peristyle or whatever the correct term is. You've kind of had this lovely sort of kind of humane civic moment with your lovely horse door handle and your big bronze door and your nice big warm sort of stone and brick exterior, and then we've got this kind of brief moment of the Pharaoh's temple.
Yeah, definitely a obsidian knife vibe.
Yeah. And then, I mean,
Los never did anything quite this kind of, into polished black.
Also, the material itself is very beautiful. I really love this because it's got, like I said before, it's sometimes very figured. It's full of these little beds of kind of quartzy looking things, which I think are some kind of strange fossil, which is displayed irregularly. So you kind of have, it appears, sometimes we're looking at one where the table bit of one of these kind of balustrade tables is extremely figured, but the columns supporting it are kind of neutral grey, and you get all sorts of different configurations of this.
Very lush, very black, very shiny.
Yeah. And it's lovely. It seems to continue in, absolutely conventional and unproblematic use as originally intended, which is kind of nice as well. You see all the... We were there. We were able to go and kind of hang out a bit. Lots of people popping in and out to do a bit of reading.
Yeah. Can we have a picture of that doorway?
Oh, yeah, we can see. Yeah, it's quite hard to photograph, but on one side...
I think this undersells it, this picture.
Yeah, on one side there is this monumental doorway which leads into, I think, this gallery space, which is... it's as if you've got a sort of flat grey wall. Emerging out of it in this kind of ominous, slightly liquid way is a big pink marble doorway with a very large and very ornately... It kind of feels sort of like Orientalist, sort of Belle Epoque kind of wooden door.
It's hard not to undersell just how much fluted, figured, heavy marble.
But it's this one. It's like continuous surfaces. Like there's legible kind of fluting, architraving, kind of capitaling, but everything is. We're on a kind of on a journey towards Zaha Hadid with this one. It's everything sort of parametrically merged.
This is the door to the Emperor's office. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, and the marble is. It's beautiful, but it's distinctly like Wagyu beef kind of colour, isn't it? It's,
it is. Everything is so gorgeous and lush and a little bit child sacrificey.
Yeah,
but
it's. It's again like deep time.
Really, he's so in control of what he's doing at this point.
Super intensely memorable. I said it, but it seems to function perfectly well as a national and university library. So much even quite recent great architecture immediately gets broken by contact with the general public, and it's quite nice that this one basically seems to work.
I think probably a couple of things in its favour.
Yeah.
One, the institution probably hasn't had to expand massively.
Yeah.
Or as in, the building is not hopelessly not big enough for the reading public. partly by being, I presume, pretty generously specified initially.
Yeah.
And it's been respected.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is important. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's a pic of this lovely limestone where he's very consciously kind of made the sort of striations go in different directions. And oh yeah, I got a lot of details. And then
Reading room is very different again. We're back to the 20th century.
Yes, the reading room, the feeling is like extremely high spec 1910s railway station waiting room or something. It's kind
very
of
nice and grand and long, and a lot of details. There's a few bits that feel, the supports of the tables feel like
it's crept in.
Okay. So why are
the tables have still got stone columns on the bases, but otherwise it's lots of lovely blonde wood, very nice kind of enamel desk lights, obviously Plečnik designed chairs, and very light gallery access to the upper shelves. But yeah, it's much more. Again, it's a different thought world, isn't it? When we actually get into the library,
this is like a lovely library reading room. It's very different.
Yes, kind of positivistic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Here's a place of inquiry and
for the dissemination of useful knowledge.
Yeah. Oh, and I mean, many thanks to the staff at the library who let us pop in before opening to have a look at this, because it's otherwise ordinarily in use. There's this sort of wash of light from either end, wash of kind of diffuse light. So again, the way these big ends, which have the big central column behind them, have kind of opal glass in them. So you get sort of big wash of pale, rather attractive light coming in. I guess this was also rather early in the morning in late autumn. So
yeah, because I think that's more or less east-west.
Yeah.
So, I mean, presumably, sometimes it comes in one end and sometimes the other end, but most of the time, neither.
Yeah, lots of nice details. That's the underside of the gallery.
Bridge. Yeah.
Which has got parquet on it for some reason, upside-down parquet. I thought it was an interesting detail. We've seen that on his stairwell in the Zachrel house.
Yeah, when you turn over the column, the bottom is beautiful.
Yes.
Every surface is finished.
Yeah.
I did not see this massive canteen-y thingy, Bob, when I was there.
So downstairs, I kind of ran into this completely by accident, but it's not really in current use, but there's some extremely strange furniture designed in the basement for the canteen, and which I guess is a kind of originally a works canteen. Now, rather sadly, just has some vending machines in it. But this, I think, is meant to have women standing in the middle serving drinks of some description. How would you describe this? This is a sort of paler grey marble, and it's like a kind of squiggly abstract figure drawn in 2D and then extruded into 3D.
High specification.
Yeah, totally amazing. And it's also got these wonderful, I guess purely symbolic, super thin columns, which look like furniture elements, but made floor to ceiling height with in a kind of pale terrazzo.
They weren't afraid of specifying things that were hard to make.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's just a little bit extra. What a crazy thing.
Really well executed building.
Yeah, I mean, every inch of it is a thing of beauty, really. And
proper national prestige project.
Yeah, just intensely lovely. I mean, there are some bits of like, even actually some bits of kind of quasi-spolia, which have been thrown into the facade design. There's a kind of some little fake bits of architrave which have been sort of chucked in there as if to...
Yeah, it's actually quite hard to carry off a really high spec prestige project. It is completely confidently handled, as if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Doesn't have any like bits where the detail doesn't work. I guess it was being done for quite a while, which can help with that. And he was very confident.
Yeah, I encountered this one like at dusk, and then again very early in the morning, and it was
what did the students think of this?
They loved it. Yeah, they loved it, and they were very they were very pleased to come on this kind of early morning tour of the reading room as well. But very beautiful at that time of day, because you get all the bay windows and all of this sort of strange overhanging fake spoliated stone on the facade. Really, it really looks very beautiful in different light conditions, among many other things. One of the great libraries.
It's also, like his buildings in general, genuinely quite odd. Strange mixture of atmospheres. It's a strange mixture when it's built of the recent past and the distant past. Nothing in there feels like 1930. It feels like 1905 and maybe 1050 BC or something.
Yes.
All that black stone feels... I mean, I don't think anyone did it ever.
Yeah.
I don't think it actually exists in antiquity. But it does feel like polished diorite.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Obviously, we're heading towards the Second World War. I mean, they were building... Various things were kind of continuing to get built even under Italian occupation, which was... I mean, Slovenia was divided. After being quite rapidly overwhelmed, it was divided. The northern bit was occupied by Germany, and Ljubljana and the southern bit was occupied by Italy.
I mean, it was also worth saying that before this, it was part of the Kingdom of
Yugoslavia, yeah. Yeah.
Which had been through various transitionary states.
Yeah.
And then was the Kingdom of Yugoslavia.
The behaviour of the Italians in Slovenia at this time is not good.
It wasn't a great time for Eastern Europe.
It's not a great time. So
Eastern
they had
and Central Europe.
I mean, they'd got hold of a bit of what had been Austro-Hungary after the First World War, and there was a period which is a bit around Trieste, and then also a kind of larger hinterland. And there was a period of really throughout the 20s of what so-called Italianisation, which led to the emigration of certainly hundreds of thousands of Slovenians who had historically lived in Istria. And like a lot of the growing population of Ljubljana at this time is people who are being displaced from Istria and that kind of Slovenian Riviera. And
I mean, the fallout of the breakup of the Ottoman and Austro-Hungarian empires results in what had once been a kind of continuous surface of different groups of people undergoing a century or so of sorting into more homogenous regions through
that's
pretty
kind of
traumatic
that's kind of going on there.
history.
And then it obviously gets turned up during the period of Italian occupation. About a tenth of the population of Ljubljana were deported to various prison camps at the time. And there was definitely a kind of ongoing... The kind of long-term goal was basically to get rid of all the Slavs and kind of turn this whole area into part of a kind of greater Italy, which obviously didn't get very far in the period of the war. It's something which is, I feel like, must be in the background of this project of creating a national architecture and a kind of an architectural expression of the national identity of the Slovenians, is that there is a slight sense of precarity about them and their existence. Like, it's not just for fun. It's not just because, well, we're a nation now and this kind of... There is a sort of...
There's something which is much more general rather than specific. I don't know enough about the specifics of the history, and obviously it's quite sensitive stuff and wouldn't want to... But there are other examples, if we think of Catalonia, Scotland, Finland, these countries which, for one reason or another, the whole identity is somewhat imperiled.
Yeah.
Does this thing even exist?
Yeah.
Does it have the confidence to exist?
Yeah.
The particular identity as a language and culture feels imperiled by empires, which obviously is something which leads to a kind of attempts at cultural rebirth in these places and creation of a kind of firm identity, as well as potentially new nations whose independence and continuing existence feels uncertain.
Yeah.
Needing defined identity and something to seem solid and enduring in unenduring and unsolid times.
Yeah. No, I think it has to be in the background there. I think that kind of sense of peril. But yeah, obviously there is. This is. I don't know why I've put this in. I've put in a little picture of one of these funny little monuments that he does around and about. This is a pre-war one, an interwar one rather. Plečnik carries on practicing right through the war, and he also manages to get going again in post-war Yugoslavia, which is, a communist country. Like, I guess it was somewhat more loosey-goosey. I mean, it wasn't Albania, was it? It was a bit there was a bit more space for ideological diversity. And
yeah, although I think after the war there was a period. So I guess when we think about communist Yugoslavia, we sort of think about the 70s or 80s.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes, lots of people going on holiday there and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think right after the war, everything was a bit. Well, firstly, Europe had been completely trashed. The general economic situation was fairly deplorable,
and there was a bit of score settling going on, which for very understandable reasons.
And also, it was pretty uncertain where all the chips were going to fall, and it was all quite new.
Yeah,
I don't think things would have felt very certain in the 40s.
Yeah,
in that way, would have become much more so. And obviously, you have the split with the Soviet Union fairly early on.
Yeah,
but there's a lot of sort of things happen before that.
Yeah. But it's interesting that Plečnik does some fairly major projects and managed to, find a way of working in this new context. And I mean, so
although in the context of obviously he is not in the position
that he had
that he was.
Yes, he's no longer going to be building absolutely everything and replanning the city. But
partly he must be.
He's getting pretty old at this point, so
not a young man.
Yeah. Well, he was born in the early 1870s, wasn't he? What was his?
He'd be in his mid-70s.
Yes. The major post-war project is this redevelopment of a former, it's a church and former monastery, right? That's the...
Yeah, the Templar monastery, or at least that's what I've heard it referred to as.
Yeah.
Although there hadn't been Templars.
They've been suppressed about 800 years ago, isn't it?
Not maybe 800 years ago, but...
when did they... Yes, when did the... it's Philip the Fair, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cursed by God for his actions against the Templars.
And what happened to it subsequently? I mean, in a lot of places, the Hospitallers took over their stuff. But anyway, this building clearly is not Templar period.
No.
Any of the... I mean, there may be bits in there, but nothing you would know about. But it's definitely a monastery with a church.
Yeah.
And obviously, that's not being rebuilt as a monastery and a church.
No, it's a big new cultural space for various forms of theatre performance and other festivities.
Yeah.
And it's a series of indoor and outdoor spaces. And it's kind of a refurb, but it's also a very intelligent kind of reframing of a whole series of existing buildings to create something which feels like a new festival square, or sort of two squares, really. I mean, the big moves are creating a new kind of ground plane, a new kind of urban sort of carpet, and then dressing the facades of buildings on two sides, and also creating a kind of way for the ground to step down into this new space, which is also sort of monumental. But this is a theme we've seen lots of times. The intervention is extremely thin
and difficult to disentangle in places.
Yeah.
What's him and what isn't.
Yeah, I don't know enough about the history of these buildings. I mean, they're much older. But yeah, he sort of dresses them with at ground level on one side there's a sort of colonnade with big arches, first floor kind of colonnade space. It's also like a funny little building in the corner which has a kind of mini colonnade around it, and there's a sort of transition staircase, and the whole thing is kind of full again of this like ersatz urns and bits of new old fake antique terrazzo kind of stuff, which is very agreeably kind of dressing everything.
And for me the most memorable bit isn't either of the two main squares, but I mean, it's kind of amazing that he was doing this in communism, isn't it?
Yeah,
because it's not really...
This feels slightly not the not the
vibe.
This
one got the communist Jesus in it.
This has got communist Jesus. Yeah, this is a lovely little moment of kind of ideological cohabitation. There's a sort of old Baroque Jesus statue, looking slightly worn, which has been redressed with this new like arched opening around it and kind of incised plaster decoration. Slightly like folk arty maypole style,
but definitely red stars in presence.
And then there's a hammer and sickle and a big red star and a kind of next to it as well. It's a sort of Jesus is on board. This is the This certainly feels like the idea that I have about Yugoslavia. We're kind of trying to bring most people along here.
Yeah,
we're committed to communism, but we're you could bring Jesus too.
Yeah, they didn't do that everywhere.
Yeah.
Also, I think
There were some places where, Jesus would be being burnt for lime or something instead.
but there's also in this complex this amazing courtyard,
Oh yeah, let me find a
Which
pic
is
of
really
a pic
cool.
of that, which I completely missed when I was there.
which is a sort of strange little internal courtyard, and he's put in a lovely paving of kind of circles with different
Yeah.
bits of.
Yeah, what's this? Is it called cosmati? There's a kind of original. There's a sort of thing you get in old Roman churches with
Yeah.
like big round, which I think are often made by chopping up columns.
Yeah.
And putting them into the floor.
But here it's like different bits of stone, and it feels like a courtyard in a kind of white rendered Baroque castle, except he's put some rather. I think the pediments are him as well. Very tall, triangular
Yeah, it looks
pediments
like it,
both
doesn't
towards
it?
the window.
Yeah.
And then the walls have a grid of precast concrete scallop light fittings that direct, indirect. So there's grids of lamps on the walls. We had a very nice evening. I can get some drinks in there, and it's this kind of glowing, this kind of white castle-y courtyard with some slightly ghostly details, beautiful floor, and these glowing walls with
Yeah.
these strange concrete light fittings.
This is a totally unique kind of fusion hybrid. I cannot
Yeah.
think of anything in the world that's like this.
And we had a very nice time there, and I have a real sort of soft spot for what is a kind of minor corner.
Yeah. I think I've read that those round things on the floor are slices of sewer pipe again.
Okay, cool.
I think that's I don't know, that might be made up, but they're
You would think that the effort that would go into slicing up the sewer pipe would almost obviate any advantage in it being that.
yes. You need a labour
It's not
surplus
that difficult to, it's not that difficult to cast concrete. You just sort
Yeah.
of need like 2 circles or something, and then
No, I don't know, maybe that's not true, but
it could well be.
it's lovely stuff. The extremely pleasant, extremely nice to spend time in. We did a lot of sort of sitting around and drawing when we were there. There's a sort of low wall around the edge that you can sit
These
on.
columns are quite cool, aren't they? They feel like
Yeah.
they could have weird lights in them or something.
I think they do, yeah. I think those do have lights. So that's a really... Yeah, again, that feels like he's doing...
This man knew how to do a lamppost.
He did. This is like a little bit Belle Epoque. This is like a little bit kind of Art Nouveau-ish. It's a kind of tapering square column one with these little outgrowths of sort of slightly bobby spotlights, which look like a little, I don't know, they look like a little kind of bud or nodule or something. I mean, it's not quite, because it's still quite stiff.
I can only feel with this that he must have had such residual prestige from
Yeah.
getting these buildings
Yeah.
done that he was kind of put out to pasture,
Yeah.
pottering around for a long... I don't think they did this quickly. I think he was pottering around doing this for several years,
Yeah.
doing these little sort of things with a bit of budget and
Yeah.
kind of being turned down for everything serious,
Yeah.
which he was still wanting to do. He was still coming up with a lot of ideas right to the end of his life.
Yeah.
But they did let him do this.
Yeah. It's lovely, and it's nice because it's kind of over the road from the library.
Yeah.
So, you get quite a lot of... The vibe definitely felt like there were a lot of kind of students rolling down the hill to have a small glass of beer after.
Yeah, there was like a sort of, like a kind of sort of soft rock concert going on in
Yeah.
one half of it
It's
when I was
nice.
there.
Yeah. And again, very beautiful at different times of day. The kind of notional historic style that he's working in is a bit different. There are these kind of slightly awkward kind of elliptical arches and these very widely spaced columns, and it all feels a little bit like the kind of very naive classicism of like early Baroque or Jacobean type,
Yeah, sort of southern... I mean, it made me think of like southern German...
folky hokey, not non-canonical.
Yeah.
Like a bit of classical flavour, but working fundamentally within a more like rustic tradition. And he's doing a version of that and doing it
Bits
with
of the
aplomb.
glazing and things
Yeah.
feel kind of industrial.
Yeah. Oh, there's obviously always layers, aren't there? And there's a few urns creeping into the
It's
facade.
not short of urns. It was,
There's always room for an urn. And as before, it's all terrazzo. Gotta love it. I mean, the last part of the story is a kind of long engagement with the big hill in the middle of town, the Slovenian Acropolis, as he sometimes kind of thought of it, which had housed this big fortress, and which he has a series of schemes for that site, which generally are for a kind of a program for a national parliament. They're not all situated on the castle, but they kind of evolved through the years, and nothing really got done, but there are some amazing ideas. And did we already say it? Yeah, I think we did. But I think that he was using the design studio and the university as a place to kind of research and work on these ideas a bit. So I think that some of his students would have been kind of grinding away on different versions of these. Some of the speculative stuff that he did, I think he used the atelier to kind of develop. So iteration 1 of this scheme, well, it's probably more complicated than this, but as I understand it, there's really 3 versions of this project. Kind of iteration 1 is like a version of the Prague Castle scheme for Ljubljana Castle, working with the existing layout of the buildings, but making them a bit more spectacular, growing them a bit, adding more stories on top, and also kind of inserting bits to make it all like a bit more exciting and a bit more dramatic. Excitingly,
the existing castle is it's not like Prague Castle, which had been the Habsburg capital and was a big old thing.
Yeah, it's got
pretty grand
stories and stories and stories, and really massive.
This one's pretty pragmatically fortification-y, fairly plain, fairly functional.
Yeah, we're looking at an AXO drawing of it, where you can see he's obviously doing some things with the elevations. There's a kind of a new dressing. There's a bit which looks like it has some motifs which are familiar from the Flatiron building. There is a big, new, rather spectacular tower, which looks like it's quoted from the St. Michael's Church project, this very thin, very shallow, rather wide but shallow, rustic stone tower with some kind of exciting statue on top. I don't know exactly which of these are being added or not, but I think he's maybe adding a few of these bastion-y, sticky out bits as well.
And maybe that clock tower as well.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And the stair. And a courtyard that is very like one of the Prague Castle yards, full of monuments.
Full of monuments with a lovely kind of stone carpety pavement thing. Looking lovely, looking very nice. And I mean, we're not going to look at them, but he did also do various schemes for the land around it, like there were sort of access roads and things like that, which I don't think I've really included.
Well, this is
maybe there's a bit of it here. Then there's a second version, which is knock the whole castle down and rebuild it as a kind of octagon, a kind of extruded octagonal thing.
This feels quite transgressive.
Yes.
Okay, so do you know what the date on this proposal is?
I think this one is later. I think this one is maybe late 30s.
That's what I was thinking. So the proposal in the late 30s, it has got various other bits that we'll look at the stair separately.
This might be wrong, but yeah, that's my guess.
We'll look at the stairs separately, but the proposal is we're going to knock down the historic castle and build not a new modern parliament on top, but a new castle.
Yeah.
Which will serve as the parliament. Octagonal castle. Very castle-y.
Yeah.
As a bit of invented history.
Yeah, it's got these very pronounced like piers in the walls. The walls have got these kind of vertical, they're kind of striped with these kind of vertical pier elements. Yeah, buttresses, yeah.
Which feels a bit like it's referencing some Italian alpine castle. Perfect octagonal castle. There's that one in the south of Italy, which I've built for Frederick II. And it feels... You could use bits of this for like filming The Name of the Rose or something.
Yeah. And there is this kind of landscape scheme as well. There's a sort of road which is going to go up, and there's a kind of clever ramping system so that you can kind of get a road up in a rather enjoyable way from the town up to the top.
And it's got the same, but in this scheme and the previous one, we divide the yard of the castle into 2 halves along a ceremonial axis that goes up actually from the triple bridge. So if you can imagine that kind of axis leading along, and then there's a stair, quite an interesting stair, going up the hill.
Yeah.
And then you go through the car, and it kind of continues all the way through on. And at the back, I presume that's the parliament.
Yeah, I think that's the parliament, is this little that little box, which is kind of perpendicular to the octagon.
What a curious proposal to make.
I mean, both of these on their own are totally fascinating. Like, like really original and, like you say, like transgressive approaches to a historical site. But also, I mean, like the Prague Castle, which is all about, how do we turn this like military fortress into a symbol of democracy? Yeah, this is kind of motivated by the same thing, that it's got to be at the service of that mission.
Plečnik's commitment to history is more totalizing than I feel anyone else we've dealt with.
Yeah.
It's not initially, he's always got it.
Yeah.
Right from the beginning. But by this point, he's really deep time.
Yeah.
There's something about ancientness.
Yeah.
That
sometimes
we've
you've got
build.
to
Sometimes you've got to demolish all the old buildings to make something older.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm not sure I disagree. I hope I'm not offending too much anyone who's very attached to it, but the castle is not all that.
It's not. You could stand to lose it. You could stand to. It would not be the greatest loss to lose that castle. There are lots like it.
There's not many things like this.
Yeah.
But these are also quite. The previous one feels almost achievable. This feels like quite a big ask.
Yeah, I mean, really, really strange, and again, it's in its own sort of historicist like universe. I mean, we're kind of burying the lead a bit in terms of what the.
Well,
what
that's sort of on purpose, because I think it's worth saying.
Yeah.
That the thing that people don't talk about, people with this talk about the stair.
Yeah, and the stair. So the aspiration is to create a kind of formal sort of monumental axis between the triple bridge and this kind of center of town up to the castle. And there's a challenge, which is that it's an extremely steep hill, and if you were to put a normal stair straight up there, it's kind of Incan temple type format. You'd be really struggling to.
That's a hill. The castle was put on the top of that hill so as people couldn't charge up there.
It's extremely defensible. Yeah, it's extremely defensible.
And this is the steepest bit.
Yeah. And he comes up with a solution, which is.
Yeah, let's go back to that one with the model, because I think that's a really good image, which I think we could describe. If you what's not included is the rest of the city.
Yeah.
But if you went over
the
triple bridge, there'd be a bit of sort of space on the other side. There's a layer of buildings. There's a road.
Yeah.
And then included on the other side of the road is everything in this model. And we're looking, there's a kind of ceremonial semicircle going in to a big stack of stairs marching its way up the hill.
Yeah.
And what we see of that is rows of triple arches.
Yeah.
And then it steps back and there's another triple arch.
It's a kind of terracing of like Belvedere forms, as if they were one on top of another.
That goes up to this, not huge actually, octagonal new castle on the top. Did you want this circular
I don't know what that is.
is?
There's also some kind of rogue, reminiscent of his kind of war memorial ossuary thing in the. But I don't know anything
Which we were corrected, nothing to do with Plečnik, and entirely by Rabnica.
Oh, was it? Oh no!
According to one of the comments, which seems very believable.
Oh God, yeah. Okay.
We didn't.
I mean, that sounds like us to get that completely wrong.
Well, it can be confusing because obviously Rabnica did quite a lot of the. I'm probably getting his name wrong as well.
Yeah, Ravnica. Yeah,
Ravnica did quite a lot of drawings in the Plečnik office and signed quite a lot of them.
Yeah,
and may even have continued projects and things. So then the stair itself.
You've obviously got to have a stair which kind of winds back on itself. It has to wind back on itself in order to kind of work. And the solution, I think there are different versions of this, but I think the solution is basically that the stairs, it goes up in flights of stairs facing towards the hill, and then you kind of come back on like a ramp the other way, and then you kind of go back on stairs again, so that you're.
Oh, I thought it was stairs all the way around. Okay, so it is ramps.
Well, it looks like. I mean, could be wrong. I think it's ramps, so that you would kind of walk upstairs into the hill, and then you would come back on a ramp towards that Belvedere looking over the city, and then you would go back in on more stairs going into the hill. Then you kind of come back on the ramp again, looking towards the city again.
And the stairs are quite gentle. The slope. It would have been a long walk.
You would do that like 1, 2, 3, 4, like 7 times, I think, to get all the way to the top.
Yeah.
But this is another drawing where it looks different. there are obviously versions of the project. We're looking at a kind of a close-up interior of a version of this, where it really feels like this kind of treasure house.
And what do we see?
Yeah.
Do we see urns in lots of different urns? Do we see lots of arches on arches?
It's a nice little horsey
equestrian
as well.
statue,
Yeah.
half equestrian statue, half columns.
Yes.
Funny altar.
Gosh,
More funny altar.
It would have been pretty amazing. So it's, I mean, on this one says that's from the 40s. That's from 47. This version. I don't know exactly when all of these different ones.
Well, I think he was working on them for a long time,
and I think there's a lot of kind of evolution. But this is it's
an interesting thing. I mean, also this feels like a purely ceremonial stair because it is such a slow way to get up the hill.
Yeah.
Through such a lot of invented history.
It would, yes. So I guess it is that this kind of...
Yeah, if you wanted to put the whole history of the Slovenian people or something in a series of bas releases in the arches, you would have plenty of...
Yeah.
You'd be having to dig out some quite minor historical moments to fill them all.
Yes, it would all have to be realised in terrazzo, obviously. You know. Well, it's a kind of scala... Is it a scala grande? What's John Soane's term of art for that... monumental stair he wants to make for the House of Lords? Is it scala? What's the...
Yeah, something like that. But
yeah, you have like your big monumental stair and you have statues in it, and it's a kind of moment of where you put the monuments and you kind of show...
But it's a kind of monumental... There's that huge Buddhist temple that was built in Java or something like that. And you go round and round and round and round and round all these sculptural depictions. And it's that kind of scale of... I mean, obviously this is much, much smaller. But it's an enormous amount of going up past history and images of the city. Yeah. Going up and 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 up. Yeah. And you have got to get up the hill, and doing that with a nice gentle slope does seem like a reasonable thing to do. But still, quite cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it would have been pretty amazing. Yes, I should say that there's a series of reconstructions of this and other of his... there was an exhibition at the Plečnik Museum a few years ago where they did kind of reconstructions and made new models of lots of his unrealised work, which we should credit as the source of quite a few of these pictures that we've been looking at. Okay.
Boom, boom, boom.
And then there's one final version. So when the Slovenian Acropolis turned out not to be a starter, he does one more scheme for the Parliament, which in this case is in the Tivoli Park, which you mentioned is this sort of park in the northwest of the city. This really is the craziest one of all. This is an extraordinary, can we say, grandiloquent proposal, again like a massive neoclassical building in an extremely unique style.
Okay, this feels like a imagined history image from the 50s, also the Cold War, of some big space blaster. It's got just the right grainy texture.
There's a bit at the bottom which is, if you don't look at the detail, it looks like it's sort of big neoclassical block, but it's got a huge witch's hat on top of it.
Or something that would flip over and the rocket would come out of. Very tall, thin. The top of it perhaps reminiscent slightly of a bullet tank canister. It's got this...
Yeah, it's kind of Thunderbirds if it had a stronger commitment to the classical language of architecture.
And then you look at the bottom, and the bottom bit is, sure, that's classical.
It's quite strange. It's quite strange when you look at it, There's a lot of... there's a kind of first order grid of big lintel with a big monumental order, but then there's so many things nested within it. What ought to be the kind of big portico at the entrance is a sort of strange absence. The columns actually aren't joined together at the top. They've all got funny little balls on.
Where's the bottom of this picture?
Well,
because that's not the there's another floor below, isn't there?
Yeah, it's cropped. The one I have is cropped. I don't know. I don't know if we have another proper elevation of it. I don't think we do. And it's a sort of photo collage. It's got a little bit of tree and sky behind it, which is quite...
Yeah. Is this a physical model, or is this someone's painted this for an unbelievably long time?
I think it's a physical model, but I don't know. It's beautifully lit. So, it would have been very, very big. It's a big sort of square plan accommodation on all four sides, but kind of concentrated on two sides. And then it's got a big circular chamber in the middle, which is tapering towards the top, and it has this kind of witch's hat section
on top of it. This section feels a little bit like one of the inputs into this would be the Palace of the Soviets.
I mean, the actual hat bit itself is largely sort of empty, but with a winding ramp up the centre, which goes up to the kind of viewing gallery at the top.
The hall underneath would have been very disconcerting.
Yeah.
It's a little taller than it's wide, and there are, I don't know how many columns, 12 columns, which are very broad.
Yeah.
And lean in a lot towards the centre, which would feel very disconcerting. And the tops of the columns, the top, a quarter of them, or third, is a big drum of
relief sculpture.
Yeah, but very butch.
Yeah,
relief sculpture. This room would have been felt very strange, and not actually that very. I mean, he's had this idea of this room with leaning in columns a few times, and no one's.
Yeah. There's a unrealised cathedral scheme, isn't there? Yeah, very dramatic because I don't know how big they really are, but they feel like these kind of super mega kind of St. Peter's kind of columns, like real massive monumental ones, but they're leaning inwards as if they're going to fall on you, and obviously that's actually about the kind of the structural forces of a cone-shaped building, but
really it's all about the effect, actually.
Yeah.
Because there's no reason it should be a cone. The cone is about making these big leaning in things. Yeah. And then why has he put this enormous cone on top?
Oh, well, just keep it going, yeah.
Why has he put this enormous cone on top?
Yeah.
It's really, really weird.
Yeah. It's this enormous kind of Babel figure. I don't understand it, but it's amazing.
It is amazing, but it's not necessarily amazing as in you'd be like, they did that?
They did that, yeah.
They did that? Why did they do that?
Oh, it would have been so good, this building. It's
It would have been extremely odd. It would have made a great impression.
Yeah.
As in a strong impression.
I mean,
you would go and visit it.
The atmosphere of the interior of this debating chamber would be pretty extraordinary. It is kind of like Valhalla. Is the feeling? It's you should really be bare chested in there.
Everyone signals agreeing by banging their axe on their shield.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, it would be lit by there's a kind of clear story around the top of the columns, which I guess is a little bit reminiscent of that church in Belgrade that we talked about.
Does this feel very Slovenian?
I don't know what it feels like. I mean, yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
I mean, well, how do they want to feel?
I think he might have gone a little far with this one.
Yeah.
Nothing he did was as weird as this proposal, and I wonder if he was getting a bit old.
Yeah, I think he was uninhibited.
There's nothing in the cone as well. It's just we're going to stick an enormous cone on. We're going to design what's already a fairly odd building, but a fairly odd building that kind of, maybe.
Yeah.
And then we're just going to stick an enormous gridded cone on top.
It also reminds me a bit of the monument to the Third International, the 20s big steel Tower of Babel.
Do you think he was like, okay, what are these communists like?
Yeah, what is it?
They're like grotesque.
But it's the
statements.
It's the unlikely fusion of communist like super utopianism, and this very esoteric, super conservative, idiosyncratic kind of neoclassical program of his own, and it creates. Yeah, this really is completely another world. It's an extraordinary road not taken in architectural history, really. I mean, and I think what's definitely one of the things we've talked about kind of off mic a bit is like how much of a sort of architect Plečnik is, like how much of the stuff that he's doing kind of it hits particularly hard if you're like a bit over marinated in the
demographic
history,
for this postcard is a bit different to the one for the Flatiron building, I think.
Yeah, I guess.
It's quite go out with a bang.
Go out with a bang. It's like I think Hagia Sophia's in there. I think that's part like this kind of the domed bit of it, I think is a bit of that. But yeah, it is a truly extraordinary and original proposal. And I feel like they would have grown into it, but I think
I
it
cannot.
would have been...
It's too. I mean, okay, I'm going to crack out a word that I think is loaded. This is horrible, isn't it? Isn't the top of that horrible?
I don't think it's horrible. I think it's great. I think it's great and terrible, but foreboding. You know, it's not like the Reichstag refurbishment. Come one, come all, come and
You can be too mild,
Yeah.
sure, yeah. It will be very memorable, be a great icon. It's very striking. Like, if you had a sufficiently oppressive police state, it could become a great icon of this.
Yeah, I think it's
sufficiently
kind
horrible
of
police state. But
yeah.
If not, it would be very weird. It'd be kind of interesting to go up the inside. It'd be light. It'd be top lit.
It'd be a bit like being in a cooling tower or something, isn't it? It's kind of...
Yeah, but being inside a cooling tower is very interesting. It's got all this dripping water and the shape opens up at the top.
Yeah.
And the aperture is big. The aperture isn't tiny on this. It's a bit of a strange thing that I guess the top is in some way glazed, although in the model it looked completely solid.
Yeah, I don't know what the intention is for that at all.
Might make quite a big difference. I understand it's very important to be approving of people making big moves.
Well,
And not being frightened of things. And it's very easy to...
The party line on this podcast is in favour of big moves.
Yeah.
But we acknowledge that they may not always 100% land.
We also have visited sufficient numbers of awful buildings with big moves in them.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is, for me, it's one of those great unbuilt neoclassical works. It's there with...
Is this the one you'd build?
I think
in
so.
The list?
Yeah. I think it's there with Lutyens' Liverpool Cathedral, kind of great unbuilt, insanely over the top, but there's some big ideas in there, kind of.
Cool. This is much more wild.
Yeah, it is quite wild. But actually, I mean, Liverpool Cathedral was quite wild. It's just...
Yeah, it just doesn't have a massive, ginormous cone on top.
No.
Well, the
buildings can't all have that.
If you took the cone away, this building would be sufficiently odd. It would be quite odd.
Yeah.
It'd be big and odd, and it would have this incredible weird inside space.
Yeah.
The facades are quite strange and disconcerting.
They're sort of strangely... They've got a kind of slightly skeletal...
Yeah.
Skeletal
but
and
then you put this enormous
kind of
cone on top, and it really becomes very genuine, very odd.
Brings it all together. Well, that's the end of the slideshow.
Yeah, I guess there's two ways you could end... There's two sorts of projects I thought that you could go out with. This one makes sense.
Yeah.
Go out with the giant cone.
Yeah.
And the other thing would be him poking his head round one of the tree trunks in the little garden pavilion that is 4 tree trunks with a tiny roof.
Oh, yeah, that's lovely. Yeah.
Which I guess would be more in line with the kind of what we're meant to think about Plečnik. Which is him as humane and in touch with things.
Yes.
I don't think either of those stories is necessarily wrong. They are both kind of megalomaniac, invented history, ghosts, and humane, and
delightful,
natural, and delightful and wondrous. They're all kind of there, coming up and going down. This period, the urban period, he's already got it by now. I didn't really know the Viennese projects at all, and I certainly didn't know the Prague project very well. And seeing that development, and then by the time he comes home, he's firing all cylinders. He both can detail and carry the projects through to completion without really putting too many feet wrong for the most part. But it enabled him, I think also because of the constraints, to do these interventions in the city that really are, every one of them adds a lot. I don't think there's anything I would take away from his built work in Ljubljana.
We've talked about it various times, the slightly problematic thematization of him as humane, like a humane architect. But lots of the buildings are very humane. And then sometimes he isn't, and he's no less interesting. Then. I mean, I think we might pull together some thoughts a bit more in some of the bonuses, possibly. I think we've tried to point out some of his characteristic moves, like he figures out some really interesting strategies as an architect, which are not necessarily invented, but they're kind of identified, and his sense of how much you can do with something extremely thin, how much you can do with kind of covering something over with a kind of thin layer. His kind of confidence in laying out different fragments and kind of composing these little sort of structural kind of monumental kind of spatial arrangements and things like that, this kind of arrangement of the puzzle pieces. His use of materials, which I think the materials are so interesting because they kind of cut against the story that he's telling with other bits of the projects. This real command of like up-to-date industrial materials and then putting them to all of these kind of very interesting and like seemingly unconventional uses. Like great architects often know how much mileage they can get, the unexpected amount of mileage they can get out of a good idea. And like lots and lots of the ideas really benefit from, if it's a particular combination of materials, if it's a particular, they really benefit from being kind of reused and being sort of pushed around in different projects. And sometimes they go from like a few unrealized ones into being realized somewhere else later. And sometimes that kind of wall treatment in the library has already appeared in multiple places, including his house and a kind of version of it in the insurance building, and no doubt some other ones as well. Yeah, that sense of how to develop those ideas, I think, is a real part of the mastery.
He's really great at extending out of the building.
Yeah.
He loves pavements, small objects in relation to buildings.
Yeah.
You don't often get to do that because that's not often a point where you can bring those things together. I thought also he gets to do some things that are historicist after the Second World War, where in the West, historicism is actually immoral. So tied up with the old Europe that's just been burned.
Yeah.
That's not to do with making a bright utopian future.
Yeah.
Because he's in the East, where I guess after Stalin, sort of nationalist history also has a strange place.
It's got a kind of place as a sort of proletarian style in a funny...
But they were definitely rebuilding the city centres of cities in a way. It wasn't long between when he stopped doing his work and when people started reinventing historicism.
Yeah, really not long. Basically like a decade.
Yeah. But there was, in that decade, there was a bit of the flame had gone out.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, yeah, so, I mean, his great, like, the guy who becomes the big man of Slovenian architecture after him is Ravnikar, this student of his, who does, his work is, some of it is like a little bit sort of megastructure feeling. Some of it is a little bit like a kind of alto-influenced brutalism or something like that. Lots of sort of like brick details and things like that. A little bit expressionisty. One of the things he does in all his buildings, which I feel like is a deliberate sort of Plečnik homage, is he runs the ends of the bricks over to make a dovetail, which I feel like is a reference to this this furniture detail that Plečnik loved doing in wood with a kind of oversailing dovetail, which feels like a nice, rather sweet little homage. I don't know if that's correct or not. And yeah, he's got a bunch of different projects, which are in their own way very interesting, but which are much more clearly part of the discourse. They're very, very brilliant and very individual, but part of kind of consensus reality in a way that Plečnik himself, often feels like he isn't, which rather magically.
No. Buildings are remarkably old.
Yes.
And the oddness doesn't appear on the surface at first. He couldn't possibly produce a school. We deal with architects who can be copied.
Yeah.
And the copies of architects are not ever like them.
Yeah.
But some can be copied. Some can, Palladio started a school of thinking.
Yeah.
Michelangelo kind of didn't.
Yeah.
Because you can't.
Yeah.
You can take bits of it. You can
There's
say,
definitely
it's all
bits,
feeding into the Baroque.
Yeah.
Not really. You can't copy. You can't have a Gaudi school.
No.
And you can't really have things in this spirit. You can take bits of it, not least the idea that perhaps you do invest in beautiful public buildings and in injecting wonder into the city. But in order to do something like this, you need this strange energy and drive at the core of him. It's idiosyncratic.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Well, shall we try and wrap up?
I think that's it.
Yeah. Thank you very much for listening.
We're going to record some more bonuses.
We've got some bonuses. We've got a few buildings that we haven't talked about, which we'll talk about on the bonuses. There are a range of really interesting ones that didn't really make it in, and some lovely stuff to look at. and some other thoughts to kind of wrap up. If you're at all interested, you can subscribe on our Patreon to get access to those. We're extremely grateful to everyone who does subscribe and keeps the podcast ticking over. Yeah, that's, it's all very much appreciated. We're on our own rather idiosyncratic kind of schedule, and everyone's very patient with us, so thank you very much for that. And thanks to Matt for all the great editing.
And we will get on to something different.
Yeah, we're going to get on to something a bit different next. So, my neighbour started playing the trumpet. So
is that a different person playing the trumpet to our neighbour, or is it the same one, perhaps?
Everyone plays the trumpet on our estate for some reason, but it's a good moment to stop recording.
Yeah.
So.
I think my trumpet player has started previously and is now a bit better.
All right, well, see ya.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.